Yes, 7 people online. Nope.
There you go. You just put your audio on, honey. You don't want that on.
How about we give it 2 more minutes, then we get started.
Are you excited for? Yeah, it's so cute. I showed it about to. They really love it. Yeah.
Right, yeah.
Nice, I bet. Yeah. I know, I love reading those, of course. One of my friends. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, I like how it involves.
And still.
We do these all staff meetings and during the. I present about 11 days of these guys. It's really cool. There was, yeah, I'm very excited, so.
I was gonna go there.
Yeah. That's.
So she just sent me, she's like, here you go.
I'm sure. I mean, I'm interested in writing for it, and then we have our team for volunteers, and they do really special stuff, so I'm gonna see.
Right, yeah.
All right, I think we should go ahead and get
We'll see.
started. I think the core group is basically here. Fortunately for me, Craig is actually going to lead this meeting, but he wanted me to kick it off. So we can start with introductions. Maybe we'll start there and work our way counterclockwise. You want to go first?
Yeah, my name is Michael Keeler, owner of Ohio Native Concepts. We're a native landscaping company here in Columbus.
Greg Cuthman, Columbus Springs Program Advisory Board member of the Xerces Society, Ambassador for Central Ohio. I am Dan Rapp. I am backyard diffuse native landscaping here in Columbus. I'm on the board of the Ohio Prairie Association. I'm active in the ONAPA, Ohio Natural Areas. I'm excited to get this started.
I'm Lynette Overholter.
Hey, Celebrezzi, City of Westerville Sustainability Coordinator.
Hey, I'm Ryan Sheep.
I'm Sarah Flecker with Franklin Park Conservatory.
I'm Bettina with Nature West Columbus. We are putting out the nature magazine, Kids.
I'm Grace Chaffin. I am the Outreach and Administrative Coordinator for Franklin Soil and Water. Assistant.
Franklin Soil and Water.
Columbus Recreation Text Department.
And our online folks. Anyone? Do you want to just call people on?
Yeah, we've got Robin Bowman. Hello. I'm Melissa.
Hi, City of Hilliard Sustainability.
Hi, Melissa. Sheila Fox. Ashley Hansen. Fiona McCarthy from Audubon. Gary Louise.
I'm not on the pic. It's doing the
That's right, it's behind you. I don't know how to change that real quick.
Tisa Watts. Tisa. Hi, Tisa. Yeah.
Oops, sorry, I had to unmute myself. Tisa Watts, Columbus Garden School.
Greg, you want to take it from there?
Sure. I'd like to welcome everyone here in person and also on Zoom.
Let me just remind you, the air vents are kind of loud, so if you could really project so that the people online can hear you. It is difficult to hear when you are online.
Thank you.
right now. They're looking at the cow.
I know, that's why I put it up there, it's cute.
And a reminder to please mute yourself if you are at home. Go ahead.
Welcome everybody that's on Zoom. Glad to have you with us. I want to take a moment to thank everyone for taking time out. It's hard to come to these meetings all summer long, but I'm excited for tonight. I think we're gonna make some foundational decisions and really make some firm progress tonight. I thought I might refresh everyone our intentions, kind of what we're imagining, which is to help connect people together, create native plant habitat sites into connected corridors for pollinating insects and other wildlife, different birds. The idea is to connect with all the good conservation work that's already being done here by many other organizations. This entity would not compete with those, but rather support them and try to amplify their efforts. So that's kind of where we are as a concept. The survey that Madison and Michaela sent out for the second meeting, I believe it was, the results were to start small, build upon that. Don't try to go too big too fast. The community conversations were critical to our success. There was a lot of support for using data to inform where our existing habitats locations are and how to identify and focus on projects that would connect those. And then relationships with various municipalities. I think there's 17 separate municipalities in Franklin County. This gets us into zoning, municipal code enforcement for the height of pollinator gardens, particularly in front yards, the urban deer problem, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And then also to try and create a trusted one website for residents to be able to access both events, information, links to other local conservation organizations. News and notices. I'd open it to anyone in the room. Does anyone have any items they want to share with the group? Brian.
Columbus Arbor Fest is not this weekend, but next Saturday, 1 to 5 in Whetstone Park. And we're having a practice day this weekend, 1 to 3 at Whetstone Park. By the shelter.
Hey, what?
Practice.
I'll be tasting their preserve seeds, and with Ryan's cooperation, I've been able to reserve a table for Franklin Park, Franklin County Pollinator Pathway, which Dan and Lynette have already volunteered to table. Certainly come by and see us or give them a break or whatever. Anyway, we'll certainly need all the help we can get. I have just a couple items on the other groups. Yes.
Oh, I was just gonna add for news, Councilman White, just removed milkweed from the noxious weed list.
Exactly.
So good for a step in the right direction.
A step in the right direction. It is still listed with that in other municipalities.
Yeah.
It also impacts the height regulations, so we're chipping away at it. He's been very, met with him several times. He seems to really understand the cultural transitions that are going on to make some of these pollinator habitat sites. From the other groups, Delaware or North Central group, they've been promoting a lot of events. To my understanding, they're still working hard on what I call foundational issues, trying to get a website page, et cetera, et cetera. Licking County is obviously very active, but I don't have any specific brand new news from Susan King up there. Michelle Hill in Fairfield County is not yet to a stage where she's working to create a pollinator pathway. And then there's a brand new group on the main pollinator pathway website, which is for Warren County. They're running their website through their local soil and water conservation district website. But so now technically there are up to 3 pollinator pathways in Ohio.
I'm from Warren County and I go down there quite a bit. So there's a way to vacation between the two of us.
February.
I can, look into it.
Yeah, I was gonna say welcome. We hope to follow in your footsteps. So any contact information for Warren County would be helpful to have. I would mention that through the hard work of Laura Fay and Flo, she has spoken with Joel Oliphant, which is the senior editor for Columbus Monthly. He is researching potentially an article on some of these pollination issues, urban deer, plant heights, noxious weeds, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. I had an opportunity to meet with him 3 or 4 or 5 days ago, had a nice conversation, so he's not sure exactly what he's gonna write, how he's gonna do it, so I don't want to put the proverbial horse before the cart type thing, cart for the horse, but I think that it's very possible we might be getting some publicity in public spots upcoming. And then the last thing I would mention would be at Green Audubon in conjunction with Franklin Park Conservatory has set up a workshop on rain gardens. It's going to be on Tuesday, September 17th from 5:30 to 7. They do ask that you register for that in advance. But it goes hand in hand with Soil and Water's rain garden program that's currently underway. So if they have an interest in rain gardens, there's an opportunity to learn more. With that, I'll touch on our current status, which is really the gist of why we're here today. I believe our effort, this has been going on with various groups of people for about 7 months now. I believe our effort has reached a kind of an awkward developmental stage. We have lots of grassroots enthusiasm and interest. We haven't really made any what I call foundational decisions yet. It's hard to have a vote on things when you don't have a formal structure. So the big meetings are kind of too cumbersome to get people focused. And more time might be more grassroots support. But I really believe this effort has a seasonal component. If we don't have this off the ground by, I'm thinking late October, kind of miss your chance. Kids are in school, OSU football starts, planting season is kind of winding down. I feel like we kind of fire this all up again next spring, which quite frankly, personally, I don't want to do. So I would like to propose that we try to meet one of our initial goals, which is to get this launched this year, meaning hopefully again before late October. And one of the survey issues also was also that I think there was a consensus of people responding that it's time to act, time to make some decisions and make some commitments. So I made up a list of what I call action issues, and I truly just made this up. It's in what I thought might be some prioritization of decision making, but it's obviously very flexible. We can do anything anybody wants to do. The first one deals with documenting our activities. Michaela and Madison have been very generous with their time and effort here to take notes and disperse the minutes and things like that, set up Zoom meetings. But they've also been very clear that they don't have the capacity or time to take this on as a program. So they want to help get it launched, but then once it's launched, it's kind of up to us to stand on our own 2 feet.
But you're always welcome to use our office if you need to.
Wonderful. So I thought the very first thing to figure out was when do we internally begin to keep our own records? I thought we might get some advice from Michaela, but my suggestion was after the conclusion of tonight's meeting, it would be lovely if we had someone that was capable of taking meeting notes that we could let Michaela take a break. So I throw that out for a conversation amongst the group. Is that too soon? Or how do we do it?
Sorry, just a
Yeah.
quick question. I'm thinking of this my brain just went to a board, and I don't know if that's what we want to do, but you know, there's always a secretary and da, 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 da. But so I guess my question is, what do we want to be? And I think that's the first step. Like, are we something that's a board? Are we, I don't know what else there, you know, right off there is, so.
That's an issue that's somewhere in my list, is what this entity is structured as.
Right.
Are the other pollinator pathways, are they not-profit organizations or what are they?
It is
They-
a non-profit, well, let me rephrase that.
They're not a
It is
five.
not technically a non-profit because it is not a 501c3.
Why not?
That gets into a tremendous amount of bureaucratic documentation, tax issues, paperwork. Over the months, I've been strongly encouraged by multiple people to definitely not do that. Pollinator Pathway itself did not do that initially. They're in now multiple countries in Europe and in multiple states, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And they have formed a 501c3 entity. But the suggestion was, again, one of our initial goals was not to create a new organization, not to be a 501c3, and just support the organizations that are already here. Now, in closing, I'll say that in order to manage any financial transactions that we would have, we need what's known as a fiscal agent, which does need to be a registered nonprofit. And that's an issue in one of my working group ideas. If we decide to go that path, we need to figure out a fiscal agent that would handle our monetary transactions.
Thank
So maybe we move on from this first one and kind of table it, so to speak, until we maybe get to the idea of what our next structure is going to be. The second one would be management of our contact information list. Kind of the same thing. Madison and Michaela have been taking notes about who's attended all these meetings and things. Somehow we need to obtain that list, incorporate it into our internal functions. Need somebody to manage it. So I could see how there might literally be sort of a meetings secretary, if you will, and then also a contacts management person, maybe more than one secretarial type of volunteer position. And so anyway, that's a suggestion. The big one is that, in my opinion, is number 3. We've spoken repeatedly about establishing ourselves with an existing nonprofit, larger, so-called umbrella organization. The choices are Homegrown National Park, an offshoot from Doug Ptolemy, the Ohio Pollinator Habitat Initiative. We started with the Ohio Department of Transportation, and then they had 2 pilot sites, and they kind of got stalled because of complaints. So my understanding is they didn't like the seed mix that they got. And, the woman that was kind of the primary force for that has left and is now with the Army Corps of Engineers. So to my understanding, that effort is technically still somewhere on paper, but is basically stalled. Pollinator Partnership out of San Francisco. I've spoken with the area rep for that. She represents several states. They get most of their money from grants from large entities like the Department of Agriculture. They focus primarily on large landowner habitat things. Pollinator Pathway, I think most of you are already familiar with, out of Connecticut. Their focus is extremely flexible. They want communities to kind of just do whatever fits their community. You can register literally as an individual homeowner site. You can structure it pretty much any way you want to, and it is exploding in growth. Susan King was very generous last meeting, has been very generous over the last 6 months or so with her time. That's where they went, and I asked her point blank if she had any, if she could do it over again, would she do anything differently? She was very clear in saying, no, they've been very pleased with the flexibility of that national group, and they haven't had any disappointments in their interactions with that group. The last one is a Pollinator Friendly Alliance. It's out of Stillwater, Minnesota. I think it's doing wonderful things, but it's very small. It's very focused on that locale. Doesn't really, in my opinion, offer the background and the support that we would need here locally for Franklin County. So my consensus, my personal opinion, and I think the consensus of everyone that I've spoken with, is that we would align ourselves with Pollinator Pathway. So I would throw that out to the group for comments or suggestions.
I agree.
Can we have, I guess, like a show of hands? Maybe it's.
All of us in favor?
There you go.
Say aye.
It's already got a sign.
All opposed?
Anyone that would like to say no or have some reasons we should reconsider this? Sold. Please tell me if this is inappropriate. I'm just sort of reading off my list. I'm kind of an organization person, but I'm not a natural born speaker. So if this is boring or inappropriate, please tell me so. Again, I tried to make these in some sense of priority. I call the next one our geographic scope. Like, what is our geographic area that we want to represent? There are efforts like this in Worthington, for example. The Worthington Partnership Green Team is underway. There are groups in Westerville. There's all kinds of local groups that are doing these type of activities, but they're not yet brought together to coordinate with other groups. There's not a ongoing communication between them. There can't be very good collaboration and sharing of volunteers for their work groups and things. That's what we're trying to promote here with this Franklin County effort. The idea that Franklin County is 532 square miles. It's big. I had questions about, does this idea mesh well with similar surrounding efforts? Obviously, we have Licking County, established and successful entity. The Delaware group literally is hoping to expand into other counties. Fairfield County is likely to do this as a county. So I thought trying to mesh with our surrounding sister groups, if you will, that Franklin County gives us a lot of material to work with. We can, within the context of that, start small, but begin to build pathways throughout. We can always expand later. So I felt like the consensus at this point in time is go as Franklin County. Thoughts or comments on that? That work?
Especially considering it seems like everybody else is doing county. So it just fits into what's already.
I tried to, again, all my meeting and talking with people, there were conversations about doing this essentially within the city of Columbus, which is obviously a huge component of Franklin County. But in doing so, you immediately eliminate, I think, opportunities to work with Sustainable Upper Arlington, Sustainable Westerville. I mean, the list goes on and on and on. Bexley, Slow Gallows. I mean, there are all these groups doing all these wonderful things. The idea is to somehow bring them together for communication, cooperation, and collaboration. So even though Franklin County seems pretty huge, I think we can start with focused opportunities and then just continue to branch out. Any other thoughts or suggestions?
There's a side comment that obviously with some communities like Westerville, Vernon, Delaware County, as well as Franklin County.
Correct.
Columbus is in like, multiple states at this point.
Right.
So with some of the reporting that we're collecting within our community, some of my overflow.
Exactly. And I brought a big paper map over there. If anyone wants to look at physically where Franklin County is, but it is amazing. I mean, it goes from basically Lockhorn, Grove City, all the way up to Westerville, Worthington, Dublin, and all of a sudden, it is basically central Ohio almost in and of itself. But by not doing it just to start out with Columbus, I thought it might close some doors for us. We didn't want to expand. You're already opening the door and being inclusive to all these other municipalities. It's going to be overlaps, but again, I think it's a kind of a welcoming attitude that we're all in this together, even if we start small within that focus. Any other
So
thoughts?
one thing, if I can suggest that might benefit this group, I think everybody's heard of MORPC, the Mid Ohio Regional Planning, whatever. A couple of years ago, after I can't remember everything. After the Summit of Sustainability, a bunch of municipality sustainable people met after the meeting, and we kind of created a municipal network of sustainable people and activities and whatnot. And we meet maybe once every 2 months. And so it's literally sustainable people in Bexley, Arlington, Worthington, Westerville, Hilliard, Dublin. I mean, it's everybody in the area that we're talking about. I think it would be really worth our while to get on the agenda for one of the next couple of meetings to explain what this group's trying to do so that we can kind of work together, since that network has already started to have been built. And we did that so that there wasn't so much duplication, but each municipality could learn from the other one. So it might be a really good idea to have us do a presentation on what we're trying to achieve with pollinators and sustainability that way.
I think that sounds fantastic. Could I ask that you identify yourself? I'm sorry, I missed your name. I apologize.
Oh, sorry. I'm Melissa Muth, and I'm the chair of Hilliard's Environmental Sustainability Commission.
Wonderful. Thanks for joining us, and thanks for the great suggestion.
And we
Can
did
you
get
send-
we did get one more suggestion online from Diane from Sunny Glen Garden.
Sure.
She said Franklin County makes sense in terms of geographic area, and we can partner with Franklin County Master Gardener volunteers and the Soil and Water District.
Perfect. Back to the Worpsy network. Brian, I'll be with you in 1 second. Can you possibly send any kind of a link or connection to that network so we have a contact person that we could follow up on that? I think it'd be great to attend one of their meetings and try and get on the actual agenda. That'd be very helpful.
Yeah, who do you want me to send it to?
Why don't you send it to me? It's C as in Charlie, B as in Bravo, TOOTHMAN, CB Toothman, all is one word, @gmail.com.
Okay.
Wonderful, thanks. Ryan, you had a hand up? Yeah.
Question about what we're talking about there, is that the Residents for Sustainable Central Ohio group that has met a few times? Because that sounds like exactly what that is. And I think we have a meeting in Hilliard like in September, just to go farther out. I don't remember the date.
Yeah, the Crooked Can. Hang on, I can tell you when that is. If I can find it quickly, which I may not be able to. But yeah, we're meeting in Hilliard at the Crooked Can in September sometime. I can find that.
Wonderful. So again, show of hands, any other comments? Does everybody feel comfortable with Franklin County as basically a surface area to represent? Yes, okay. And we don't have to do these in this order again, so if you have any other ideas or something, please jump in. This entity, I've been calling it because I couldn't figure out what else to call it. The question was, is this going to be another locally focused conservation nonprofit? I think we touched on that. The answer was essentially no. Question was, would it solve the identified core problems of communication and cooperation, or would it maybe literally make it worse? And the thinking is there's already practically too many organizations to keep up with. Make another one would not necessarily be helpful. The idea is that there are already fragmented efforts, lack of communication, and then the significant issue of being a 501c3. So the consensus, again, according to my notes that I've been trying to keep, is not to make a new nonprofit, but with a note that this status could always be changed in the future. Pollinator Pathways suggested that, I mean, literally they themselves did not set that up, but are now, now structured that way, and we could do that as well. So if we find ourselves wanting to do that for various reasons in the future, we're not locking ourselves out. Any thoughts on that?
Hi, I'm Teresa.
Yeah.
My experience with 501c3 is if you want donations, if you want any kind of contributions, maybe even grants, it limits your ability to receive those. I think for businesses, it's like $750 to file with IRS. And if you're under 25,000, there's two things you do every year. It's a $990, which is basically, we don't make more than that. And then something for the Secretary of State, not the Secretary of State, it's for the state of Ohio to just document. Once you're over 25,000, that's a problem, not a problem. That requires much more detail. But I like the future part. I just wanted to throw that out. But in the future, I don't think that we should limit ourselves because we could have access to grants. EPA, I mean, all these places, they do all kinds of water grants that maybe we could do riparian, pollinator pathway near the rivers, metro parks. And I just didn't want to limit ourselves.
I think those are excellent points, and it really does come immediately back to taking grants, taking donations, et cetera, et cetera. So I think it is
just an idea.
It is, I think, maybe wise to, very wise not to limit ourselves to not doing that, but potentially just to get this launched in the next 3 months. That might be something we could explore more fully, maybe something like that, so we don't miss this seasonal aspect of getting started.
Oh, certainly. I just wanted to throw that out for future ideas.
That'd be great.
To get monies for seeds or whatever.
And one of the working groups that I've got on my various pages of paper is one that deals with financial issues, grant proposals. I'm gonna put you on that list. And that would be great to explore. So thanks for those comments.
I will say really quick, Licking County does accept donations. I think that's all managed through their fiscal sponsor, so I don't know exactly how that works, but they do accept donations. And they have gotten a couple really small local grants, so nothing really large scale.
As a 501c3.
No,
Just as-
they are not a 501c3.
Oh, okay.
Just
Oh,
as-
you're not saying pollinator pathway.
Oh, of Licking County,
Just as-
yeah.
be technically
Oh, I thought they were a
nonprofit,
501c3.
Yeah, so their grants, I'm assuming, are just so small that they don't have to be.
Yeah,
But I do agree that is a limiting factor to a lot of grants, including our grants, so yeah, something to consider.
I thought you said that Licking County Pollinator Pathway was a 501c3 now. Oh,
The national
national.
group
Oh,
is.
National Pollinator Pathway started
As not.
A 501c3, and somewhere not too distant past has become. So they recommended in my conversations with them, a legitimate way to just try to get launched. Don't get too far ahead bureaucratically, just try to get some plants in the ground.
Yeah.
Get your name out and then explore some of these more structural items, as you have talked about.
Deal with in the winter.
There you go.
Yeah.
So any other comments on that? So I'm gonna assume did you want to say something? I want to, but I'm.
I don't.
Speak up.
How is one a nonprofit? How do we recognize ourselves as a nonprofit if we're not like federally recognized? I mean, does somebody know how to do that? And then I'll say, okay, fine, we'll move on.
That's a way to be an informal nonprofit somehow too. I remember that.
So, I mean, this gets you into, LLCs, all kinds, I mean, there's various tax entities.
Right.
And I'm not familiar specifically with the issue that we're talking about.
Right.
But I think there is a way to say, we're not a profitable organization or business, but we're also not a 501c3.
Okay.
We're a small, local,
Community.
nonprofit
Yeah.
thing. What'd you say?
Community.
We have a civic association.
Yeah.
My neighborhood, instead of a homeowners association, we have a civic association. It's a nonprofit. We have a treasurer, president, all that stuff, but it doesn't require all of the filings and stuff. And we're small. I mean, I think our bank account maybe has $20,000 on it. So I've already made notes to contact. I mean, the treasurer lives right behind me, and I'm gonna get whatever information they have on how they established what they technically already did establish. That'd be awesome.
Yeah, I like that name.
Thank
So
you for explaining that to somebody who's only worked with 501c3s.
But it would make sense for us,
Right.
somewhere down the road, hopefully, if everything goes well, to become a
Successful, I think we would find ourselves in a position where we would want to. Yeah.
that's great. Thank you.
And just in my, sorry, this is Diane Cadnega from Sunny Glen Garden and our Connecting Community Corridor. We've partnered with a couple organizations who can act as fiscal sponsors for us and basically how we set it up is any donations that go through them for our projects, we give them a percentage just to help with their administration of it for us. And then they pass the money to us. So that has worked really well for us, for our projects in that way. So a couple organizations that have very similar sort of goals and missions, or it all fits under together, have worked really well.
Thanks, Diane. So should we move on? Everybody comfortable with that as a concept? The next one, the entity name, if you will. This may seem almost overly retentive or something, but each of these things moves us to the next step along the path, no pun intended. So the question becomes, what do we want to call ourselves? This gets in immediately into what our domain name will be, what our email name will be, our grant writing capabilities, our simple communication to the public. So I think it's important that now that we've decided we're going to affiliate with Pollinator Pathway, to me, the most common thought would be to call ourselves Franklin County Pollinator Pathway. Input, questions, suggestions on that.
All in favor, say aye. Aye.
Okay.
All opposed?
Again,
Should I-
it's basically Pollinator Pathway of Franklin.
Really mixing it up there. That's a whole other.
Anyway,
Do you
Yes.
want to say Ohio at all, or that's not been
that
designated?
was
so-called beating around the bush quite a bit. By putting, oh, well,
I don't know, I
Yeah.
just throwing it out. there.
no, that was an idea as well initially. If you go to the main Pollinator Pathway website,
Right,
you click on, I think it's Get Involved. Then you click on Find My Town,
on the states.
and it's listed by states.
Yeah,
So you go to Ohio already, and it'll show Licking, Warren, and the North Central Ohio group. As of tomorrow, it's gonna show whatever we call this group. But so the idea of including Ohio in it seemed like more words to type, more everything. So, the consensus was to just leave Ohio off of it.
and I missed that part. so
Yeah, well,
Thank you.
it's, I mean, these are just things that have emerged over truly hundreds of conversations, so. You there's no test on this, so you wouldn't be expected to know.
If I could add, something,
Yeah.
I'm looking at the Find My Town right now, and there's not too many that fit county other than Ohio,
A lot of them,
literally by town.
yeah, they've done them by towns. And this started out of Connecticut. I believe it's Wilton, Connecticut was the first one. And they've kind of emerged, sort of small town to small town, and they've expanded from there. So there's a lot of activity in Connecticut, Massachusetts, New York, Vermont. Some of these have 6 pollinator pathways within their state. The fact that Ohio already has 3 and is about to have 4, I can tell you that the headquarters is very, very excited about what's going on in Ohio. And so if we don't put in county, that gets you to Franklin Pollinator Pathway, which is fine for a website maybe or an email, but I'm not sure that is less intuitive to the public. Thoughts on that idea?
I think we.
And Licking County is Licking County Pollinator Pathway. They've been super successful. Madison wants to say, let's not reinvent the wheel. I think that's clear to the public of who we are, our geographical location, what we are, Pollinator Pathway, and our national organization. So I thought that seemed pretty good. That's been the consensus of people that have spoken to me.
Can I totally derail the conversation for a second? Has anyone heard from the Worthington Pollinator Pathway group that was starting up? Yeah, just one meeting, because we met with them. Yeah, we met with them at the beginning of the year and they were like, we're just gonna do our own pollinator pathway. And we were like, that's fine. And I didn't.
I spoke to our player involved as well.
Yeah.
Yeah, I just encourage them to join existing ones or this one.
Yeah. So.
Because, yeah, again, I think county just makes sense. Yeah. Since we're already on that track, but, Delaware.
Right.
Just like Franklin County, I mean, Columbus surrounds this municipality, and it surrounds that one, so it just makes sense to make the whole county.
Right, and if we run into issues with, there's a lot of people in the county, if we run into issues with that, talk about like ambassadors from areas, somebody who lives in that area, who's willing to take a lot of events in that area, workshops, things like that, to get smaller engaged. The Worthington Partnership Green Team.
Yeah.
Was represented by 2 people at the very first meeting we had in like late January.
Yeah.
Sarah Gallagher, Flo, now, and Swaco. They already have an established membership, if you will, a board of officers, and money. They're a thing already. And so they were multiple steps ahead on some of these concepts. And I think some of the thinking from their perspective, I may be mistaken, but my understanding was they're already basically ready to go with this. So they're going to promote their local efforts. Now, I never heard any interest in formally trying to set up a so-called pollinator pathway just for Worthington.
See, I had heard, I thought that they were
They-
going to.
Yeah,
So,
well,
I
maybe,
don't know.
I think they're pursuing
still are?
these same concepts. Just as Sustainable Westerville is. I mean, this is the whole idea. There are people doing all these fantastic things everywhere. But there's no cohesive group to it. So we're not exchanging information, not able to support each other, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So I'm confident Worthington is well on their way doing stuff, but I don't think my last conversation with Sarah about Gallagher that was never mentioned to me. So I don't know the status of that. Right.
Sometimes local governments have all that set up where it makes sense for them to call it what they want for their own benefit, which is, it makes sense. But there's no reason they couldn't be part of an association countywide like ours. So in Worthington, I know they planted a new pollinator garden just a few months ago. Maybe it was a couple months, but you know, they want to galvanize their own citizenry and everything, so it's just another name, but it's all the same thing. It's still plants in the ground, still pollinators. So maybe we can avoid getting too put up on some of those technicalities, but definitely everyone working together. This problem has held our city back. What I mean by city is Central Ohio. Just all the different towns. And this other group that was mentioned earlier, residents for sustainable Central Ohio. This little informal group, I think is really important. It's kind of a lot like our residents, just getting people out of their silos from one municipality to the other, even though we're just right across the street. So hopefully we can just move forward and everybody can have their own organizations that all mesh together and work just fine.
That beautifully brings together one of the core, I call core concepts of this group, which again, feeding back through all the pages of stuff was not to make a new organization, but to support through voluntary partnership, if you will, anybody in Franklin County, be they large or small, be they a individual resident or a municipality represented group, partner with us and can cooperate together. So there's nothing vision that would put any limits on anyone or anything. We want to actually encourage them to do their thing in their community, would be a part of this maybe larger entity that would have a name,
Which is what
the whole idea did.
Susan did in
Exactly.
County.
Exactly.
All of the different groups that she advertises and says, hey, Loud Ones is doing a plant giveaways.
Yep.
You know,
You've got Wild Ones, you've got Flow, you've got Fact, you've got the new Coyote Group swag. I mean, the list is almost amazing how much is going on in Franklin County. And I'm really excited to think that we could serve as kind of a clearinghouse of information, be a trusted science-based website for residents to connect to. I've had a phenomenal number of people come up to me that know I'm interested in this. And they're like, I've heard there's something going on with like native bees, and my neighbors are talking about planting native plants, and you know, they're interested, but they don't know where to go. And if you Google search it, you get 500 plant lists for Southern Ohio. You get God only knows how many organizations. It's more than they can handle, and so they just shut down. They don't do anything. So I envision our website being very supportive, very connected, and bringing in all these various groups voluntarily.
I would say like 80% of my clients, that's one of their first comments, is that they tried to start doing research on their own. There's just so many different ones out there, and everyone's saying something slightly different. So having that science-based website where you can just say, just go to use this website, and I think that will just encourage people to get out there. And it usually doesn't take much. I don't have to do a full consultation with somebody to get them to have a good idea to start maintenance. We just need a little bit of guidance on what kicks it on.
Yeah. Any other thoughts on that? The next one is actually different than that piece of paper shows. And this was basically a description of what we want to call, what is this thing going to be? We're not a nonprofit. Pollinator Pathway does not specifically have chapters. So that would be kind of a logical thing. It would be a Franklin County chapter of Pollinator Pathways, but they don't do it that way. So I guess, you know, there's a word which again communicates to the public and to other organizations that might join us in this effort. Are we association? You know, went through the dictionary, literally. You've got network, affiliation, collaborative, alliance, blah, 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 blah. Now, we don't have to decide that tonight, but I want to throw that out to the group for some thought. Pollinator Pathway themselves, the headquarters suggested network or association. And it won't change who we are or what we do, but it might change how we present ourselves as a group of partnering organizations in Central Ohio.
I like the word initiative too.
Initiative was on the list. I think the thinking, I mean, it's all open for discussion. I've been calling this an initiative since the very day of starting. The idea of an initiative to some level connotes an ongoing effort or something you're trying to get launched. So there was some thought that calling this established group an initiative, it might be something that more than that once it's established. Anyway, again, food for thought. Please send in your ideas. But at some point in time, we're going to need to know literally kind of what do we refer to ourselves as.
So you said, what the pollinator pathway maybe being on public side?
They are I don't know, but my understanding is they are, I think they refer to themselves as pollinator pathways. Period. I think their awareness is that, you know, they're just creating pathways or network of connected habitat. I don't think they call themselves, I mean, they go on the website. I've never thought of that. So I don't know. But I think it would help us bureaucratically get grants. I mean, people are going to say, what are you?
Right.
So I think there is a word in there somewhere that we could choose.
Right,
To help represent ourselves.
right, I'm thinking if we're gonna use their butterfly and their pollinator pathway term already, like what, did we use kind of what they do?
I'm looking at their website right now, so,
I was trying to find it too.
yeah, so
Network
it sounds more like they call like the pathways, like the different communities doing it, like those are the pathways, like, so. Because when you look at their website, you go to like they have like a little line that's home about, they say pollinator pathways, and then it lists all the states that you could find one in.
I kind of like the word association, because I feel like that kind of really is a broad enough term, and it conveys that, like, we're bringing more than one group visiting us, you know, a singular group, but so I like that one.
Well, give that some thought, if you will. Anyone that wants to send comments or suggestions in, it's tabled as a decision point. And it's again, seem like a very small detail, but I think these foundational steps, and by talking with Terry Hermson up in Delaware, these are the very things they are really struggling with. They haven't been very organizationally detailed, grind out some of these decisions. And they're struggling. They're already promoting and supporting events, but they haven't done this kind of stuff. So as boring or mundane as this may seem, I think it will actually give us a good foundation to become much more active, much more quickly. It's let's see that, 6:25. I would like to maybe stop with this list and move to what I call working groups. There are some issues that also need to be resolved, but are not necessarily on that list, if you will. The first issue is the Columbus Arbor Fest, which is Saturday, August 24th, 1 to 5, Whetstone Park. Lynette and Dan are gonna volunteer. I'll be next door at Xerson's table, but please show up and support us. The suggested tent rental did not pan out. I was told by them that they don't. They don't provide tents.
Right, we don't have a tent.
So, I did something on my own that I take full responsibility for. I personally loaned this entity, which didn't exist until a half an hour ago, $1,000. I bought a table. I have a list in here somewhere. I typed all this up, but I have a table, a 10 by 10 pop-up table, which is which is the same one that Xerxes provided me. It's a nice one, cost I think $150. I have contracted a printer to create 500 of the generic pollinator pathway brochures, color brochures, so we can hand those out. I bought 1 pound of native plant seed from Ohio Plant Nursery, OPN. I'm going to use the flow, or I'm proposing that we use the flow. They have some little spoons and stuff to help measure these out. Bought 500 coin envelopes. I contracted with the printer to make one of those little self-stamping things. So we'll have the pollinator pathway insignia in the middle. So hopefully we'll have a thing to stamp the envelopes. We'll have some seeds to put in them. We're going to staple them to the brochures. We'll have something tangible for people to hand out because they like to walk away with something. And there'll be 500 of them. Obviously, we don't use them all at the Arbor Fest. They won't go to waste. I bought a potted plant, which I'm going to use in my own garden, but I'm going to put it in a decent pot. So we'll have it on the table. And then I have one of my Xerxes signs that I made. I tried to get a poster made, and I'm still waiting on a high resolution PDF from headquarters to be able to print out a poster. So I can't get that done. But this is a sign that Pollinator Partnership out of San Francisco did for the U.S. Forest Service. And I liked it, and I managed to do some weird computer stuff and got it turned into a poster. I usually use this on my table. I'm going to offer that to our table next door. So we will have a poster, we'll have a flower, some brochures and seed things to hand out, and we'll have some type of an email, the Pollinator Pathway email sign-up list. Hopefully, if people take a brochure, they'll be interested and give us their contact information.
That's great.
I'm going to supply a table, 2 chairs. I guess that's all I'm providing, but I took the liberty of doing this.
That's it.
Yeah,
Because-
thank you, Craig. Wow,
Well, I
that's-
mean, we're running out of time. I mean, this, Ryan's big event is in 10 days or whatever. And it's like, you can't wait for this meeting to make some decisions.
Yeah, I will reiterate
I
what,
did that.
well, thank you, that's really awesome. I'll reiterate what Susan said to, try to buy, emails. So if you say, you can have a free seed packet if you sign up for our email list. That way it kind of incentivizes people to do so instead of just handing out
Handing
the
out.
free
Yeah.
seed packets, just a
These
thought.
things the brochures are very expensive. The seed was about $50, but I'm pretty sure the brochure printing was like $530. And they're over $1 a piece, and I got 3 estimates. That was the cheapest one.
Who did you go with?
Pardon?
Who did you go with?
I went with the printers, it's called Kenwell Printing on Indianola, it's where Flo gets their stuff. Talking to Laura Fay, she said, try that one. But I went to 2 other ones, and one of them was almost $1.50, one was like $1.42. These people, I forget them now, anyway, they were the cheapest ones, so I took a leap of faith and said, print me up something. Hopefully, considering this alone, I think this is basically a bad idea. I don't think the organization should rely on loans and stuff. We need to get our own fiscal house in order, so to speak. But from a time frame standpoint, I went ahead and committed to that. I hope that's okay with everybody. So that's that.
Sounds nice.
On a similar level, how are we doing last time? 6:30. I have a tabling opportunity that is essentially identical to the Columbus Harbor Fest for the Westerville Harbor Fest. Marty Frito's in charge of that. I'll be there tabling for Xerxes. I got a reservation for the Franklin County Pollinator Pathway, so we'll have a table there. I can use the same tent, the brochures and all that stuff.
What is that?
That one is on Saturday, September 21st. From 10 a.m. to noon. And somewhere I wrote down, I apologize in all my paperwork, I forget where that one is located.
I want to say it's at Allen Creek Farm.
Yes, I think that's exactly what it is, Allen Creek Park. Check their website out. Obviously, we'll be looking for a couple volunteers for tabling at that event. That one's only 2 hours. Obviously, it's nice to have more volunteers just to break it up and let the people that are attending go out and enjoy the festival itself. Issue 3 is a initial budget estimate. Get a lot of questions on how much is this going to cost to just get us off the ground. We need to determine what I'm calling near-term costs, maybe the next 1 to 3 years. All of a sudden, someone's writing a grant, kind of need some numbers to go with it and say, here's what we think we need, here's what we would like to have. These are what it's for. I've never written a grant before, but I've been told this is, got to have some numbers to go with it. So we're going to need a working group to come up with that kind of budget estimate. I know that Darlene Sillick from the Ohio Bluebird organization is very familiar with grants. Laura Fay from Flo has written a lot of grants. A woman, I apologize to the group, I can't think of her name offhand. Carolyn, somebody gave me her card. She's written lots of grants. So I didn't know if we think we need a grant proposal working group, but do we need to separate out this budgetary information, or do we just let a grant proposal group work on it? Any thoughts on that?
Well, I think a lot of grants, maybe not all of them, there's a lot required by 1C3.
I was glad to understand that there are grants available. Again, I'm just trying to keep up with all these moving parts. The question would be the fiscal agent that we would associate with. Will be a 501c3. They would technically get a grant in their name. Like I think Licking County uses the Licking County Land Trust, I believe. Madison, does that sound right? So for their grants, they do that, and then Licking County hands it to the Pollinator Pathway. That's all. That's the limits of my understanding on how all this grant stuff works. But that's obviously going to be something we're going to have to address promptly. Because we got to get some money to keep on going.
What could be a possible fiscal agent for us? Did you have everything in mind?
Be perfectly honest with you, I haven't explored that. There are a whole host of conservation organizations that are doing things that this group would want to partner with. Question is, are some of them willing to serve as a fiscal agent? Are there fees? Are there requirements? You know, we have to do certain things. What do they have to do from the reporting standpoint? For, you know, our own financial record keeping annually, quickly getting tax issues. I mean, this is a lot of work to be a fiscal agent. Not every group wants to mess with it. So that would be literally a whole working group to maybe talk about these issues and explore who we might find that's willing to do this. Right?
CRC, will do it, small fee. It's like 2%.
Okay.
Maybe 5. Green Columbus is our fiscal sponsor.
I thought Shelley at Green Columbus would be a logical outreach person for this. But coming back to the initial issue of our name, I wondered if we have the name Columbus in our fiscal agent organization, is that creates friction or conflict with Worthington, Upper Arlington, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera.
Yeah, just think of it like a bank.
Anyway,
Just like a bank.
it's
And they don't have to make decisions beyond processing.
essentially, they're just gonna process donations and money and our proceeds from our sign or planned sales, et cetera, et cetera. But anyway, that's to be explored by the group.
And CRC, I would say, is professional with this because they support a whole lot of different communities. So that we don't have any fiscal sponsorships they have.
And would you share with the group who CRC is?
That's the Bill Beach-12 Resource Center. They do a lot with unhoused, elderly, folks that need to get to appointments. They have a really big team. So and that's important.
Wonderful.
So they're I would say very professional.
Great. Well, somewhere in the notes, Madison or Michaela, you know, these are things that we need to form working groups on. Some people that are knowledgeable about this, maybe a small group that can explore these issues and then report back to the larger group. Is how I'm envisioning some of these so-called working groups. So that's open for anyone to volunteer. Basically, we're going to look for volunteers to figure some of this out. Carolyn Watkins was the name. Carolyn, if you're on board this evening, I apologize. I couldn't remember your last name. That gets us through a fiscal agent. The website is going to be just an absolutely central component to this effort. Tyler Dennis from Friends of the Olentangy Watershed Tributaries is a computer person, I'll call him respectively. He's spoken with him a couple of times. He's quite willing to support our exploration of a website. Ellie Knowles at Flow is kind of the Flow website person. She also runs a company herself that does graphics and things. So again, I'm proposing that we create some small working group of volunteers to meet with various people that are familiar with website construction and design and report back to the group. So if anyone has any knowledge or interest in that type of thing, please, somewhere along the way, please communicate. At an immediate, as of this afternoon, for a domain name standpoint, I looked up Franklin Pollinator Pathway.org, which is essentially exactly what Licking County did. I also looked up FranklinPollinator.org. Both of those, as of 3 o'clock, were still available as domains. So that was maybe lucky. That immediately flows into emails, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Our concept originally was to have a common conservation events calendar. Simply Living, I think many people would say, has kind of the big calendar of of events. They cover a lot of issues that are outside the realm of strictly conservation. But I met with Rita Hayter, who runs that for them. They use a software program, it's my understanding, called Talkify. It's very inexpensive. According to Rita, it's easily learned, it's easy to manage. She's using volunteers through, I think, a labor sourcing timeshare type group to manage it. So again, there's a working group that needs to explore in conjunction with our website, a common calendar. There are a number of complex issues to make sure that the partnering groups that have access to it, how to monitor it, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. But all those things need to be worked out with the working group to report back to the main group. And then the last main piece would be a map. Pollinator Pathway has a map. Susan King from Lincoln County has told me that she thinks the homegrown national park map is better than the Pollinator Pathway. I agree. And Lincoln County is currently, I haven't heard that they've done it yet, but they're about to launch an upgrade of their map, where they have new layers and things. Takes a lot of computer knowledge. I'm totally not capable of hardly talking about that, but I think we can have an excellent map for Franklin County that will incorporate not only the individual habitat sites, of which there are now 7 as of today for Franklin County. Even though we know the flow has over 50, Columbus has 37, I think. I mean, there's all kinds of sites. And that's one of the issues for another working group is to determine what is our starting point. I don't want to take credit, if you will, for everything that's already done. So we need to somehow have a data-driven, honest starting point, both in the number of sites and the square foot or acreage or square miles that's already here, so that we can measure how we build on that and measure our impact. So that's something to think about as well. I'm just throwing out ideas. Nothing. It's about 6:45. I think we touched on an awful lot of stuff. We've made some good projects or progress rather. Is there anything in the last 15 minutes that people would like to throw out as maybe something y'all see as a priority that we need to really work on or focus right up front? Any ideas?
I think let's decide our name today, association, network, collaboration, and initiative, and start with that. And then figure out who's going to reach out to a financial I forget what we call it, fiscal
agent.
If we can try to work out those 2 things. What do you think, Stephanie?
Well, again, just as a refresher, Pollinator Pathway, I posed this question to them. The board there, if you will, recommended either association or network is what they thought maybe fit this concept best. All of them have limitations. A partnership is what I hope to establish with the other conservation organizations in Franklin County. So, and we use up that term for ourselves, so to speak. The council, this kind of formal organization, doesn't really say anything. Association, alliance, network seem to be kind of leading candidates. Is that something we can kind of vote on tonight?
Network kind of feel like pulls us, all the different pieces. I mean, association could do that too.
Yeah. I mean, this is where it's semantics, but yet, you know, these do play a role in communicating our message to the wider audience. So, as you know, detailed as it sounds, I do think that it's a valuable exercise in trying to pick what we want. Is there anyone from the Zoom community that wants to speak up on this? Okay, well, that you were gonna say.
I was gonna say, I agree that networks needs to be better if we're trying to partner with more people. Because if we say association rules, that could be seen as.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. And network is open.
Or even something like collaboration or a collaboration of.
Collaboration was proposed, cooperative, initiative, collective, affiliation, coalition. I mean, there are all kinds of names.
So ultimately, though, we are going to work with all of these other people, but we are a group. We are not a affiliation of different groups. We are a group.
And we're not
So
taking any
it needs to be
autonomy.
clear how we.
Exactly. One of the core concepts is we're not trying to take any autonomy away from these already functioning groups. They're already doing great things. And so the idea is not to overarchingly become a new entity, but rather just to be more of a communication network, if you will, to support them and disseminate information to the broader public.
We said online Franklin County Pollinator Partnership would allow the localities to remain independent in their own pathway, but provide a collaborative resource.
You look them up in the dictionary and some of them fit better than others. Is that something we can maybe include a decision on tonight, or is this something maybe we should think about? Everybody can look them up in the dictionary and make a decision later. Tell me what you're thinking.
Make a decision. I think we
Yeah.
keep putting things off. We're just gonna
Yeah.
count.
Because next Saturday
It's the board if you want to do a tally, put certain words.
I would pick,
Yeah.
I would pick three or like three or less that you like the most, that everyone likes the most, they're the top
So
ones,
that
and then you vote.
That, well, I would say from the list that I had, it would be
Yeah.
network, thanks for that. Alliance. And association.
Does anyone on the Zoom, have any issues? Are those three good names?
Does that work for
Alliance,
everybody?
network, or association?
Sorry.
Oh, I like the names.
That sounds great to me. I just want to clarify, so we're the Franklin County Pollinator Pathway, and that's like the official name. But when someone asks one of us, maybe at this tabling event coming up, what are you? Then we'll say, we are Franklin, this is Franklin County Pollinator Pathway. We are an association of local households and environmental organizations who have come together to ...
Correct.
Exactly. I had that on this earlier action list as what I call an elevator speech, where you try to have kind of a one sentence descriptor of what we are. And I had examples just as ideas. We're a nonprofit pollinator conservation association in Franklin County. Or something like we work to connect people and pollinator habitat throughout Franklin County. So somebody says, what are you? It's nice to have some very concise statement. But ideally, in that statement would be one of these three, are we a network, association, or alliance?
Be right.
Maybe to vote.
Anytime you're ready.
Okay, so show of hands, yeah. Go for it there.
For alliance. Who wants to vote for alliance?
And if you're
Any
online, you
supers?
can drop it in the chat and I'll tell you.
Is it one vote per
One vote.
person?
You only get one.
Well, now I'm pressured to not vote for Alliance.
Well, I
I'll say-
like Alliance too, but I also like. That makes sense.
I think the thinking with alliance, again, you know, I've just been hashing these out with lots of people, an alliance. In many people's mind sounded like all these other groups. are coming
Becoming
together.
one, yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, it's an affiliation.
Okay,
It's, and I think this core idea is not to do,
yeah,
we're not trying to take anything away from everybody that started doing stuff. We're just trying to be helpful. So I think that was the thinking with, alliance and affiliation.
Alliance.
Yeah.
Is-
You like
You like
Alliance?
all right. Okay,
Anybody online like Alliance? No. Okay.
All right, next, for network show of hands. We have 10 here, 11 here.
3 online.
14. And association. I'm sticking.
Anybody online?
I like that somehow better. It's got one. But,
Association of the network.
I like it, but association just sounds right to me,
But
but,
just, that's another thing we compliment.
but,
We have
great job,
a name
guys.
and the, what we
We
are.
are a network.
we are in that.
All right.
Okay, we got it. And cross that one off. Wonderful. Dan and that, thanks for spearheading that. So it's 6:52. I'd like to end on time out of respect for everybody's, busy schedules.
what was the other thing we said, the name, and what was
Deciding the fiscal agent
Oh,
or who to reach out to at least.
Yeah,
maybe, yeah, and then maybe
Maybe,
who would volunteer to do that,
maybe for some of the work groups, maybe we could get
maybe
a
real quick,
handful.
yeah.
how do we, I guess, as, you know, before we close here this evening, a question becomes, how do we establish
Right.
some groups to focus in not on these, you know, generic giant issues, but on a particular issue of grant writing or fiscal agents or website? How do we best bring volunteers together to hash out some of those?
Yeah,
The
because I
ideas on
think
that.
the volunteers for the specific groups need to get the wording to go to the fiscal sponsor. Right, instead of just, because I'm not sure if I know our mission statement or. You know, I think we need that to go to a fiscal sponsor.
The mission statement is one of the working groups. I mean,
Yeah.
this is where I've just
Yeah.
kind of said, we're gonna have to start at the beginning, wade through some of these issues, or you can't do the next thing. For exactly the example that
All
you
in
gave.
something.
Yeah. I would think all of these working groups would be, come to their conclusions and, present them to the larger group to vote on basically.
Yeah.
But so we need somehow to establish small working groups. Michaela, Madison, how do we throw that out to, well, our existing people that have
Can
already
I-
been on the
Can I
contact?
say, why don't we come up with what we think maybe the 3 working groups that
Yeah.
we need to get established right now? And then we can send out a little blurb and say, who wants to be part of, you know,
Yeah,
one of
it's
these
good.
groups?
Okay, great.
And that way too, if we send out the email, we're capturing more people, and there might be some guy that is, you know, works for Heartland Bank and was like,
Yeah,
I
right.
love to help you guys do it.
I see that, wonderful. So,
Somebody that does not do that.
Right.
is that something that we could essentially pick the 3 candidates and add them into the minutes and just say, we need volunteers for this? If you're interested, please contact me for right now. This is a meeting. So the ones I had in priority were this initial budget estimate. Fiscal group. Initial funding sources, fiscal agent, and then the website.
So financial.
So-
Fiscal,
Fiscal.
right?
Web,
Maybe you can lump social media into
well,
digital
those were separate
media.
ones, but yeah,
Yeah.
social media, email, obviously.
Digital communication.
You know, it was how much do we have to break these down into small pieces, or can a group handle multiple issues at once?
Right.
Sure.
So physical communications and then mission statement or structure.
I would say structure.
I don't know.
I mean, what are we? Like, how are we?
Yeah.
I don't want
How are
to
we? Yeah.
introduce dismay to the group,
Uh-oh.
but I mean, I have literally like 20 of these issues that need to be hashed out. So we made incredible progress this evening. But truly, you bring up one issue and it generates three other issues.
And that's where I think if we had a committee that was handling fiscal things, then
Yeah.
it's
Take it
not
from there.
just, finding fiscal, you can let all things fiscal.
And communication,
And
the
a
whole
whole
website, social media.
Communication, and then what's the content or the,
Content, I like that word.
yeah, mission, the goals, something
We
that
haven't,
is our basics.
here's what I have been referring to as kind of a core concept that, quite frankly, for all practical purposes, made up myself. It's been hashed through literally several hundred communications and meetings with various people. And I didn't try to type that up for tonight because I thought we wouldn't get to it.
Well,
There
we
is a core concept that leads us into defining a mission statement, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera.
Yeah. So core content or
Core concept.
what do you?
Yeah, I like it. I mean, you could call it the mission statement for the business.
So physical
Because that
communications.
will
Yeah.
go beyond, if we call it the
Content.
vision statement, we have one task.
Yeah,
But if we call it the content group, then it's,
yeah.
okay, we're working on a mission statement. It's like, what are all these other, what are our goals?
There's
What are we trying to accomplish? How are we gonna accomplish it with whom?
Yeah.
All of those kind of things.
With social media and like web design and all of that, and honestly, most of these, it could be really helpful to like honestly reach out to students, because if they can put that on their resume, that they like helped in the group. I mean, college students are always looking for more. I mean, I was when I was in college, anything to put on my resume that I helped out with the community, because that's what most people are looking for. It's like, oh, your local community, you care, like, oh, all these things. So like putting it on usually you can contact the university and be like, can you put that on your job posting, or like you can talk to the professors who deal with those and be like, do you have any students who'd be interested in this, or
Right.
anything of that sort could be really helpful, because then you could also learn about a lot of new stuff that's happening.
Well, they
Right
would
now.
do a lot better job.
Well, and they would, well, with them, they're putting their thing on the line because they're just a student. So if they do well as a student, they're like, here's an example of how I helped this group, like pay me a lot of money to help you in your group now that I've graduated.
Right.
It's been suggested that there's a thing at OSU called the capstone program.
Yep.
Where students are trying to finish off their work or something, and we might be able to avail ourselves of some input, as you're suggesting, from students to help.
Yeah,
out
all
with
seniors
of
have to
these
do it to graduate.
Human communications.
Yeah, and I have some connections to professors, capstone groups, and student groups that we've worked with at Ohio State that I could connect.
You guys run the.
Welcome to the group.
A little bit.
In the last minute case that we have.
That's in
Franklin County one.
Pollination. No joke.
Cross-pollination. Running social media is a lot of
Our
work.
last
And
minute,
yeah,
I'd like to ask, when should we meet again? I think the working group idea, they need to start meeting as soon as possible. But when do all of you feel that it's appropriate for this larger group to have another meeting? Been meeting essentially monthly. That would put us 4 weeks, gets us to September 12th.
I will say, I really want to be involved in this group, and the way it's been landing is our cocktails at the conservatory events, which I tend to have to table at. So, I didn't have to table this one, but like, I could send you those dates, cause I like doing Thursdays, but it's like very specific Thursdays.
Yeah,
I can't.
I know that other people, Madison, this goes back to the beginning of trying to pick one of your doodle polls, which that somehow it came out with Thursday evenings for the best, but it doesn't need to be locked in. You can do anything you want. So I'd like to not walk out of here without some idea. Maybe we could kind of do a doodle poll thing again.
Sure.
Are there any days that this facility is not available?
October.
We are remodeling like the whole month of October in
This
phases.
specific, like,
So
third Wednesday, this group.
Flow is first Wednesday of the month. SWAG, which is the Scioto Watershed Action Group, if anyone's interested in that. I think that's the third Wednesday of the month. I think that our board meetings are fourth Thursday of the month, but they're in there, so we have this thing.
I would throw out that I checked with Columbus Metropolitan Library. Whetstone is kind of this, probably a centrally located library. They have a meeting room, it's free, holds 65 people. I went there and checked it out, I mean, closed the door, it was quiet and private. You just have to sign up, make a reservation. But I thought that was potentially a meeting place we could use.
Do they have microphones and stuff for?
I don't know, that's an excellent question.
They have like, most of them have projectors.
Also, OSU Extension, Michael Hogan has offered their facility. Is another place.
Is that on campus?
That is, I believe, off Kenny Road. Near the,
The 4-H building?
I don't know that.
Okay, because that's across from the shop. Yeah.
Right, on Lane Avenue. Anyway, so we've got some opportunities to meet. But maybe we'll leave it with the understanding that we'll try and meet again in approximately a month. Madison and Michaela, your guys are gonna send out a doodle poll with some dates in that general time frame, 4 weeks from now. And then once we kind of nail that down, I'll try to find out where we can make, how about that is.
That sounds great.
Right.
I recommend getting that full address, Gmail, ASAP. Just sign up tonight, get your password, write it down, very securely. And then if you want, I can help you with that, because that's what we did. We have a Gmail account for the spot, and a lot of good things come with it. Google Drive, where you store files, you relax, gives you a little space. It really helps you get.
Licking County's website is through Google too, so that would be.
They did their initial map through Google Maps. So Susan King knows how to do all this stuff, so she pretty much single-handedly, kind of pushed the envelope, so to speak.
So
But you're referring to an email address, just getting an email account address. So
if you want me to help you, I consider myself trustworthy and I'll help you with that.
is there any reason? Literally, I can't dip into my donation and buy the domain name like tonight.
No, there's no reason.
Well, okay, but then.
You're talking about a website.
Two different
He's
things,
just talking
yeah.
about.
I know, usually
Gmail's
sometimes the email kind of follows whatever you've designated as your website, the email.
I would vote for a Gmail, email account for sure.
And that's what Pollinator Pathway recommends. And purposely is to have Gmail account separate from all of our personal emails. Both so you can manage it.
I think that's what Ryan is suggesting.
Yeah, that's what you said. So we can get an email address.
Yeah.
We're running over time, but does anyone want to say what we should make that email address?
Franklin Pollinator Pathway.
Yeah.
It's a little
Pollinator
shorter because you didn't have to type in pathway and everything else.
FCCP.
Path.
FCCP.
Oh, that's
That
way
was
better.
considered
Yeah.
if you
If it's
spell
not
it
there.
describe it
How
to
do you
you
find
now.
out if there's a Gmail?
Well,
Yeah.
I mean, once
You try and
I
make
have
it.
somebody email address, I don't.
And it tells you no.
Yeah, could be like, if it's, that's taking, you could do like FCPP 614, I don't know, that's getting into it.
Well, but he volunteered to help, so.
Yeah.
Is everybody
Utilize that.
comfortable with franklinpollinator@gmail.com?
Sure.
No.
So, okay, I'm going to you, but
I think Lickies
we'll
is
try to
like
make that
pollinator.
happen.
It's
The
long.
main name would be franklinpollinatorpathway.org. Yeah.
Oh, I forget, she sent me something, that, I'm like, what is it?
With that, I'd like to kind of conclude the meeting so people can leave if they need to. Just been super productive and really grateful for all your help. If people want to stay afterwards and further hash things out, I can be here as long as necessary. But with that, I think we'll conclude, and we're about 5 minutes over, but thanks everyone for their patience.
Thanks everyone online.
Good job.
Thanks, Craig, for all your work.
Oh my gosh, it's a pleasure. I only saw you one.